Hey, Facebook. My name is Stephanie Haines. I'm a reporter with TMJ4. Just jumping on this Friday afternoon, a little bit gloomy outside. I'm in my kitchen right now, not down in Kenosha, not in the courthouse, and not in a car outside the courthouse, just because today was actually a really short day in court. An important day. Every day is important, but a short day. Today, the attorneys met with the judge to figure out jury instructions. And this is just exactly how the jury is going to look at each charge in the Rittenhouse case and say, okay, this is exactly the law. This is exactly the evidence, convict or not convict. So they did that for about 2.5 hours today. But I think the last time I spoke with you was a couple of days ago. And so a lot has happened this week. And I'm just going to start back on Monday. I can't even remember if I spoke to Facebook since Monday. So Monday, we were towards the end of the prosecution's case. Gage Grosskreutz took the stand. He was shot in the right arm. And so he was up there for a pretty long time. He contends that, he was a medic out there that night and he was armed himself. That's just something he's testified that he believes in. Always carrying. The defense did point out that his concealed carry license had expired, so he technically was not lawfully concealed carrying that night. And prosecutors and defense attorneys really focused in on the moments of the shooting, especially one picture where it shows Rittenhouse on the ground and Grosskreutz within feet of him. The defense on cross-examination got Grosskreutz to kind of admit to, Rittenhouse didn't fire until you were within feet of him and your gun was pointed at him. And the state was asking Grosskreutz just sort of things along the line of, well, what did you think was happening? You saw the defendant, you didn't know what was happening. You were, he says he never meant to ever use his weapon. He just was trying to stop the defendant in certain way, in a way that was non-lethal. So then on Tuesday, the state's last witness was the medical examiner, who is Dr. Kelly. He actually works up here in Milwaukee. I guess he does the forensic analysis for Kenosha as well. He says Anthony Huber was shot on the left side of the chest, and the bullet caused trauma to lungs and heart, and then got lodged up in his right under his right collarbone. Fatal shot. And then he testified, and this is what attorneys were really focusing on, was the shootings, the shots to Joseph Rosenbaum. There were 4 shots and he had 5 wounds. The medical examiner testified he thinks the first shot was to the hip, then through the hand, or through his fingers, which went through his thigh or grazed his thigh. And then as he was horizontal, a grazed wound to the head, and then a shot in the back. Attorneys were making sure people understood it. It wasn't like he was shot in the back, turned around. It was shot as he was moving forward. How he was moving forward is up for prosecutors and defense attorneys to debate. Defense attorneys say he was lunging. They say there's evidence to show that Rosenbaum had grabbed the barrel of the gun, and prosecutors say there's evidence to show that Rosenbaum was falling after he had just gotten shot in the hip. So then the prosecution rested. Around lunchtime Tuesday, defense got up, started their case. They started off with a couple of witnesses, and then there was a couple of other people who were with Kyle Rittenhouse that night out protecting businesses. Nick Smith, who used to work at CarSource, and is testifying that he was asked by the sons of the owner of CarSource to assist in keeping watch, he said, over the business that night. And then also another woman who kind of joined that group who was in the picture. And then on Wednesday, the defense called 2 witnesses lightning fast. And I mean lightning fast just because they felt so short in comparison. But one of them was the roommate of Grosskreutz, who defense attorneys were trying to ask him why he would post on social media that he has now since taken down, but post on social media shortly after the shootings that his only regret was not emptying the magazine or not killing Rittenhouse. And on the stand, this roommate said he totally lied and totally made that up. Gage Grosskreutz never said that. And then really early, I mean, it was fairly early on in the morning, Kyle Rittenhouse took the stand, and he was up there for most of the day, and most of the time that was cross-examination. So he took the stand. He kept his eye kind of forward and on his attorney, Mark Richards, who was asking him questions. He did break down when Mark Richards had asked him, about the moments leading up to the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum. We took a break. We came back. And then they finished up their cross-examination. He contends, every single decision he made that within the shootings was because he was in fear of his life. He thought he was going to die, and it was self-defense. So on cross-examination, prosecutors really tried to just ask him, why he thought he had to bring a weapon out with him that night, why he thought he had to be armed going out on the streets that night, if he knew the capabilities of this weapon, if he knew about the bullets in his weapon, if it was his intention to kill the people that were shot and killed that night. And Rittenhouse just kind of kept saying, I never meant to kill anybody. I meant to stop the threat of somebody who was attacking me. And he contends that he never re-racked the gun, as Gage Grosskreutz said. And he said he also remembered Joseph Rosenbaum's hand on the barrel of his weapon. And so in the midst of all that, the judge really scolded the prosecutor a couple of times, one for his line of questioning in which it would discuss the defendant's right of silence post-arrest, which the judge said that's, it's just a constitution that's been in the Constitution. That's something attorneys don't ask about. That's crossing the line. And then another line of questioning that would bring up a video that the judge previously in hearings before the trial said would not be admitted into evidence. It's a video in which Rittenhouse is heard saying, "I wish I could have my AR-15," and it's showing a CVS and possibly an apparent shoplifting in place. The judge said, "Yeah, I left the door open at that point for the judge, for him to decide if that's something that will be admitted in trial, not for prosecutors." So he really made that clear. And then we finished up that day, and the next day, Thursday, the defense called their expert witness, Dr. John Black, to testify to the timing of each of the shootings. And he said the whole event, the whole span of all 3 shootings took place in less than 3 minutes. It was actually 2 minutes and 55 seconds, which was kind of interesting to hear, because I think a lot of us or people who have been paying attention to this case have seen individual videos. And so to hear that, this was just a couple of minutes, now it's kind of all like the whole event is kind of starting to come into one timeline. And then it took less than 1 second for the shots to go, for the 4 shots to fire into Joseph Rosenbaum, and then a little more than 5.5 seconds for the shootings of Huber and Grosskreutz. Then the defense called a person who was out filming that night. His professional name is Drew Hernandez, and he was filming for his website. And he filmed the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum from the ground, and also testified he saw Rosenbaum lunge for the gun. Then shortly after that, the defense rested, and the state wanted to put on a rebuttal witness, which they wanted to bring up the state crime lab forensic analysis video expert there, who zoomed in and slowed down the drone video that they just got last Friday. And they wanted that up there to show that there was an interaction between Rittenhouse and Rosenbaum before moments leading up to the shootings that would indicate that, some sort of maybe provocation. The defense really wanted to hammer in on, if you expand a video, you zoom in, does it add pixels and does it add color in which that would distort the image, because that would show something that did not actually happen. And the expert couldn't speak to that, but says, he's a crime lab analyst, it's peer reviewed, etc. They finished up their rebuttal witness, and then we learned a little bit more about the schedule. So the jury was off today. They have a 3-day weekend. They'll come back Monday at 9 a.m. That's because the attorneys spent 2.5 hours this morning with the judge hammering out jury instructions. So there's 6 counts against Kyle Rittenhouse right now. The prosecution wants to add in a couple of lesser included charges. So that would mean, okay, if the jury doesn't think it was first degree intentional homicide, maybe it was second degree, if they find there's enough evidence for that. So the defense made some objections. Some might be included, some not. It's up for the judge to decide, and that sounds like it's going to be something that he finalizes over the weekend and sends to the attorneys. That's when, on Monday, when the jury comes back, he will read all those instructions. That'll take him about 45 minutes. So that's when we'll know the final instructions of what charges and the lesser thans that they can consider. So then prosecutors wanted the judge to include a provocation charge, which just kind of goes back to that drone video. It sounds like the judge may include that. We're not for sure yet. He could change his mind. He kind of reserves hard and fast rulings on things, just because he wants to hear all the evidence and kind of think on it. But he did want to see that drone video again. And that kind of goes to that provocation. Was there actions that Rittenhouse took that would have provoked behavior of other people that led Rittenhouse to shoot? That's what the prosecution wants the jury to be able to consider. And then at the end, the judge said that he thinks it's a little antiquated that, every time the jury has a question or wants to review some evidence, they have to come back into the court to review it. And it has to be under record. And he said, so let's just give them the exhibits and let them have at it. And both attorneys said, no, I don't want that. And Mark Richards actually said, no, I don't want a free for all with all the evidence with the jury. So that was interesting. Once again, jury's going to come back Monday at 9 a.m. They're going to hear the instructions. That's going to take a long time to go through each individual charge and what needs to be lead to a conviction and what leads to an acquittal. And then they will hear closing arguments. Each side gets 2.5 hours max. So if we back time it, time it out, it's probably going to be, 10:30 by the time they start they are finished up with instructions. Then prosecutors do their closing arguments first. That would be 2.5 hours. So that could take it to lunchtime. And then the defense gets 2.5 hours, and the prosecution gets a rebuttal statement argument, but it has to be, that's included in their 2.5 hours of time. So I think the jury will get it Monday afternoon, and that's it. The judge said last night we're in the home stretch. So that's where we're at. I'm sure I forgot several things, but it has been it's been 2 weeks. They were almost completely on schedule, or at least they thought it would last through Tuesday, the judge said. And that is kind of the case. We did get an update from the governor saying that he is authorizing the National Guard. He says 500 Wisconsin Army National Guard troops are reporting for active duty. He said it's to help keep the Kenosha community and greater area safe. And then he says, I urge folks who are otherwise not from the area to please respect the community by reconsidering any plans to travel there, and encourage those who might choose to assemble and exercise their First Amendment rights to do so safely and peacefully. So that is, I guess, the governor being prepared for whatever may come with the verdict, which we expect sometime next week. So that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have more questions, please reach out to us. But right now, have a good rest of your Friday afternoon and a good rest of your weekend. And we will pop back on here when there are more updates in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Thanks so much.